Hello, and many thanks for joining us again on People, Politics, and Power. I am Imonia Marere. Political developments in the last 1 week have been fast and swift somewhat. The crisis within the Lagos State House of Assembly, the tension in the Nigerian Senate, and the logjam in Rivers State all underscore the dynamic and turbulent nature of Nigeria's political landscape. They reflect the challenges in leadership, legislative-executive relations, intra-party dynamics, interpersonal relations, and governance processes. There is never a dull moment in Nigerian politics. There is always a show ongoing. But all too often, these impasses lead to administrative paralysis and negatively impact service delivery to the people. For instance, not much serious legislative work has happened in the Nigerian Senate in the last 1 week because of a beef between the Senate President and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, a first-time member of the upper chamber. The discord began over a sitting arrangement dispute, with Natasha resisting reassignment of her seat. This routine exercise, going by Senate rules, led to a heated exchange during the session. It has since degenerated to accusations and allegations of sexual harassment by Senator Natasha against the President of the Senate, Senator Akpabio. Of course, all of this happening outside the Senate chambers. The situation has since been escalated to the judiciary, where counter multi-billion naira defamatory and fundamental human rights lawsuits have been filed. The unfolding drama appears to have pushed to the background the original and substantive issue, which is that of legislative order, discipline, and decorous conduct required for lawmaking. The question that many Nigerians have been asking is, how can lawmakers be lawbreakers? The senators are not fighting over issues of principles and the welfare of Nigerians, or indeed of their constituents. So what is this drama doing to the integrity of the institution called the Senate? What does it really matter where a senator sits, since the entire chamber is covered by cameras and, of course, within sight of the presiding officer? These are the issues we will be looking at, and, of course, all the many matters that have arisen as a result of that heated exchange on the floor of the Senate about a week ago will all come into play. Stay with us. We will be back in a moment, and you'll get in to meet my guest.
Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria, which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, Politics, and Power on AIT.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. My guest is right here in the studio. He's none other than Honorable Eseme Yibo. Honorable Yibo is the media advisor to the President of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Akpabio. Thank you so much, Honorable Yibo, for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Okay. Now, in the last 1 week or thereabout, so much has happened, particularly in the Nigerian Senate, beginning with that heated exchange that we saw on the floor of the Nigerian Senate between, well, should I say between or among the Senate President on one hand, Senator Natasha Akpoti on the other, and of course, the Senate Chief Whip on the other. All of these have culminated in a number of matters that have come up outside of the Senate, which, of course, impinges on the reputation, not just of the President of the Senate, but that of the Senate itself and all that institution called the National Assembly. So let's begin this way.
Okay.
Yes.
I want us first to properly situate the events. You know, for example, now, it wasn't Senator Natasha against the Senate President. It was law enforcement and Senator Natasha. If, for example, now, the police goes to arrest a suspect for breaching the law, you will see some level of resistance. In some cases, they will beat up the law enforcement officer. But that is not a problem between the suspect and the Inspector General of Police or the police officer. Clearly, the 1999 Constitution as amended have made it very easy. They contemplated that the society is under the law and order. And of course, you know, in any democracy, legislature is what defines democracy. And that is why in the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights, Article 25, the issue of participation is very strong. And that is domesticated in our Constitution. Section 14, sub 2 and 1, that the overall welfare and security of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. It goes further to espouse about the participation of the people. And it is from there that we, the people of Nigeria, which is the preamble of the Constitution, enacted the Constitution, made provision. And that is where the election of people into parliament and all of that originates. And conscious of the intention of democracy and representation, the same Constitution now empowers the Senate and the House of Representatives to set for itself regulation that will be able to govern its activities, proceedings, and procedures. That is a standing order there. And in this standing order, there is no section, there is no provision where those who will obey and those who should not obey is defined. It is law, so irrespective of anybody, including the Senate President. Everyone must obey. And people have missed the conversation by now saying, Akpabio, Akpabio, Akpabio. No, it's the President of the Senate. It could have been any other person, but the law remains there, constant. From the First Republic to the 10th Republic, the law is constant, where it is not amended. So the law says that the Senate President, who is a presiding officer, created by Section 52 of the Constitution, presiding officer, is the Senate President in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Then the deputies are the Deputy Speaker, Deputy Senate President. Shall allocate seats, shall do adjustments, and all of that. And in case of non-compliance, the same President of the Senate, who is the presiding officer, shall enforce by asking the non-compliant senator to leave the chamber. That is intended not to punish anybody, but to serve as deterrence. And it will promote decorum. It will promote integrity. It will go ahead to also create an atmosphere of elegance. That's why they are being called distinguished.
Okay, honorable member, you were a member of the House of Representatives.
Absolute.
So flowing from that, is it conventional that members of the House or members of the Senate can be reassigned from one seat to another by the presiding officer?
Yes.
Or indeed by, by the principal officers
of the Senate? If you read Section 11.2 and Section 11.3, it's clearly stated that in event of adjustment, defections, And in this case, there were defections from one party to the other party, to the majority party. There shall be a readjustment of seats. And remember, the person who allocates is the Senate president, and is the same person who can delegate for the readjustment. Very simple. If you listen to Senator Ireti Kingibe, she stated clearly that her seats have been changed 4 times. And that is why it's very unfortunate. The culture of reading in this country is very unfortunate. When you go to the House of Representatives or the Senate, National Assembly, the first souvenir you receive is the standing order and the Constitution of Nigeria. Because these are the things that you are admitted on oath to preserve and protect. So every senator is expected to read like a pastor is reading his Bible from the beginning to the end, so that your conduct is going to be in substantial compliance with the provisions of the standing order. But unfortunately, some of them, as it were now, it's clear that she may not have read it, because you don't have the right to inform you that there is adjustment. So once you know that there is a defection, or like when my brother, led Senator Ifeanyi Ubah, died, that place cannot be vacant. When Senator Ned Nwoko and the other senator of Labour Party now moved to APC, which is a majority party in the parliament, there has to be that adjustment. Now, what she ought to have done, as it were, will have been that, I'm talking about Senator Natasha, will have been that she comes down from her high horse and go to the allocated seat and raise a point of privilege. She would have probably been more educated.
Was she notified of this reassignment of seats?
No, you don't need to be notified. So
if she was not notified, how was she to know that she was to move from one seat to another?
When you go to the chambers, you look for your name. The names are all written. The names are all there on the seats. SMA, Igbo, Marere, and all of that. So when you go, that's the first thing you do. So if the chairman of the Senate Services, in this case, is generous and he has enough time and it's convenient for him, or you are close, or you are somebody who asks questions, or your neighbor may even tell you, you are now sitting with me. But you must know clearly that when there is a defection, that is a signal that definitely there is going to be seat readjustment. It may affect you, it may not affect you. Senator Kingibe said she was changed 4 times. There are a lot of people, even at this instance case, other persons were changed. She was not the only person who was changed. But because she was interested, sitting, according to her, where the camera would catch her. And in parliament, everywhere you sit, the camera would definitely get you. It depends on your contribution. You cannot go and sit down there and cut nails, sit down there and do WhatsApp, and the camera will be focusing on you. You, the editor, will ask your reporter, what did you bring back? You can't leave those who are contributing to go and focus camera on people who are possibly with their phones. That's the issue here. So it has nothing to do with the person of Godswill Akpabio, but it has something to do with the enforcement of the law by the presiding officer.
So was the distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan not right to have raised an issue of privilege, possibly to ask why she was being reassigned?
That's the point. That's the point I'm saying now. No matter how genuine her concern was, the law is very clear. Privilege. That's section 10, bordering on privilege. He said that a senator or a member of the House of Representatives can raise a point of privilege at any given time.
And that was what the senator did.
No, wait a minute. Any given time, and not from anywhere. She could have had the opportunity to say so. That's what I'm saying. She would have come down from her high horse and raised that point of privilege from her seat. But where she was, what he said, you don't raise point of privilege from anywhere. You must address the presiding officer.
That was her existing seat. Where she was speaking from?
It's no longer, you are talking about existing. It was no longer her seat. Where she was no longer her seat. They were asking her to go to her seat, and she saw where her name was. So because she believes that the parliament, she derobed the parliament of the hallowed nature that the parliament consists of. It's called hallowed chamber. And what is hallowed about it? It's the sanctity, it's the integrity, it's the orderliness, and of course it's the decorum. It is elegant. But she derived from what she wanted to create was she wanted to wear a garment, and she wore a garment of self-pity and wanting to, go ahead on a flight of fantasy, which was very unfortunate.
Honorable, what has developed from this is that there is an accusation of disregard of Senate rules by the distinguished senator and a breach of protocol for which she's now been charged to
and
face
a conduct unbecoming of a senator.
For which she's now been charged before a disciplinary committee.
She's not charged. She's
been sent to
yes.
whatever it is.
That's
that
right.
She's been asked to face a committee of the Senate.
Yes.
Now, the question I want to ask, could all of these not have been handled differently to avoid all the hula baloo that has now blown up?
The only way it will
both
have
from the
no,
part
it-
of,
it-
the,
it will- it
of
will-
the president of the Senate and the part of the senator.
The
Natasha.
presiding officer is like a judge. If you go and fight inside the courtroom, the judge will not leave his seat to come and tell you, come, don't do that, or pass sentence. No. What really happened was that if you see from the clips that you have brought in here now, so many senators were pacifying her, were pleading with her. So that's why I'm saying if she had come down from her high horse and go to that seat, she would have raised her point of order. Her point of privilege. But she didn't do that. So even if she was allowed to speak from anywhere, that would have not been recorded. That would have not been possible. That would have not been allowed. You can't do it. A lawyer must address the judge from the bar and not from outside. You can't do offerings to members of a community who are recalcitrant. She was very unruly. She refused to subject herself to law and order. And the same standing order 11.5, I've made it very clear that when there is that rancorous atmosphere and all of that, the sergeant at arms may decide to restore law and order as the case may be. How does it? He's not going to use gun. It's to walk you out. It's to walk you out.
Now, Honorable, since all of this broke out, there have been talks and mention of the fact that in the 8th Senate, of which the current president of the Senate was a member, there was a similar incident. And it was between him as a senator, who was at that time in the opposition, and the then Senate President, Senator Saraki.
Okay. The difference clearly is this. This has thrown up the character and the personality of Senator Godswill Akpabio. In that incident, his microphone was not working. His microphone on his allocated seat was not working. You saw the clips. But even then, when he fled up, immediately apologized to the presiding officer and the chambers. He apologized. You saw the apology. That is a man who is able to recognize and appreciate the essence of the institution. He did not bow to anybody. He bowed to the Senate. He bowed to law and order when he apologized. And that was the end of it. But this case, even it wasn't the issue of microphone, and beyond the unruly behavior, up to that moment, until the end of the day, she never found any pigeonhole to be able to say, I am either sorry or by gesture exhibit remorsefulness. She never did that. But that is not to say that we should treat that action without the issue of human disposition. That could have been so, because after that, the Senate, by the way, I have to remind you in your introduction, you said the Senate for the past 1 week has not been doing anything. Nigerians are suffering. That's not correct. For the past 1 week, the Senate have been engaged in a lot of activities, including public hearing on the issue of tax bills. There are 4 of those bills, and other oversight activities. So the Senate has been active and is working. I just wanted to
at committee level.
Yes.
Not
Plenary.
Not at plenary.
Yes, because
Okay.
if you use at that committee, who are the people you won't form quorum in the plenary. So it's always advisable. It's a standard practice anywhere, even in the House of Commons. I'm telling you this honestly as an experienced parliamentarian, So that's one. So I just wanted to correct that. So if that had taken place, already the caucus of the Kogi State caucus and the Northern Senators already apologized. So she could have queued behind that apology and remained calm until another legislative day. But what did she do? She decided to go to one of the television platforms, Arise, and now wanted to bring down the roof, because the roof cannot be brought down in an atmosphere of deceit, in an atmosphere of inelegant refusal to speak the truth, because she never spoke to the truth. She actually wanted to derobe the institution of the integrity it deserves. That's where we are today.
Precisely the point. The integrity of that institution has been put in the public domain, as it were, by all of these happenings. Does that concern the President of the Senate? That indeed an institution which he presides over is in the has, so to say, a not very positive image in the eyes of the Nigerian public.
Okay, you must know that the Senate is the composition of a Senate is a representation of equality of states, 3-3, whether a big state or a small state. And we have diversities, and we have sensibilities, and all of that. You will hear sometimes there have always been a lot of issues, because the legislature is where, if you go to the National Assembly now, the number of visitors in the National Assembly is more than the number of people in Wuse Market. Because the people believe that that is the constituency, that is the arena. So anything that happens there, it must resonate, in public perception and all of that. Then the other issue, the issue of reputation management. To what extent what are you doing as an institution for reputation management or perception management, as we want to say? And this, of course, will have to involve a lot of strategies, So we are doing that. For example, the current 10th Senate is the only Senate in the annals of Nigerian history that is publishing a magazine that highlights the activities, the milestones, and every other thing that the Senate is doing. So you can just pick a flip and look at it, and you ask questions if you want to, and recourse to it, and ask questions, and these questions will be answered. That is still part of the way of getting the community, a legislative community, engaged and informed. And beyond it, we also expect that senators who are representing the various senatorial districts also have the onerous responsibility by way of conduct or by way of activities. Let me give you an example. Senator Natasha said that that he wanted to move a motion on Ajakuta Steel. She came in by November. December was the Senate President's birthday. Within 3 months, she came up with that, making a lot of accusations on the issue of Ajakuta and all of that. A committee, ad hoc committee, was set up, and it was heard. She moved the motion, they debated, it was heard. they sent to the ad hoc committee on judiciary, headed then deputy chairman of the ad hoc committee, deputy chairman on judiciary, Senator Ogbomizere, SAN. Now he's the chairman of that committee. You know, he was the chairman of that ad hoc committee. Could you have said they neglected to attend to your motion or to what you brought up? You cannot just bring something and say, oh, Amarere has killed somebody. The Senate said they should take you first to prison and all of that. These are in government engagement and government processes. There are establishment rules. There are processes and procedures of engaging within the establishment. And you do this not with the heart, but with the head. You don't wake up by the spur of your emotions and now decide that, oh, this is what you want to do. Oh, they stole something there and no action has been taken. No, you must introduce your head into it. So these are some of those things that has to be done.
That of course, also now leads us to the accusation that has been made by the Senator, Senator Natasha, that, and indeed women groups have picked this up to say that there was or there is an attempt by the President of the Senate and the leadership of the Senate, for that matter, to silence her. And that each time she brought up motions or sensitive issues to be discussed, she was never listened to.
I have just cited. I've just cited the example of the Ajakuta. She brought it up, and it was attended to. If you listen to what she said that day, she's saying that the seat allocated to her, which she considered operation, she will not have access to camera. Cameras are not focused on people who are not contributing. One. Then number two, out of 109 senators, including the Senate President, they all represent a senatorial district. They have one motion or the other. They have one bill or the other. These things will have to be prioritized. So it's not that you move a motion today, tomorrow you will be. Out of 20 to 50 motions, they have to look at it and prioritize it. Because it's not all about your constituency. If I'm discussing the issue of humanitarian issues that affect the entire country, it will be prioritized. So remember, there is also public interest. When once a particular issue or a particular incident is in conflict with public interest, of course, public interest will suffice. That you and I know.
Allusions have also been made to the fact that she was removed as chairman of one of the Senate committees.
Okay, I'm sure you are also aware that Senator Ndume, a very experienced parliamentarian who has spent a greater part of his life in the House of Representatives and now in the Senate, was removed as a chief whip. Heavens did not fall. And he's still participating and contributing. That is the maturity in this thing. That's what it takes to be in the hallowed chambers. Maturity, decorum, and of course, you have to conduct yourself. Other people have been changed from one committee to the other. Experienced senators that have been changed. So the issue of committee is not the issue of identity. It has something to do with gender. And in any case, I'm sure you are aware, and if you didn't, take note that the four women in the Senate, they're in A committees. The senator from Lagos State is the chairman of the Committee on Humanitarian Affairs. And I'm sure you are jealous about that, if you are a male chauvinist. The chairman of Health Services, Senator Banigo from Rivers State. The chairman of Women Affairs, distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe from FCT. And of course, the chairman of Diaspora. Now that there is emphasis, there is investment, there is a direct foreign investment and all of that. And the DG of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri, is an experienced parliamentarian. So to head such a commission and then giving you as a chairman. Natasha is the chairman of the Committee on Diaspora. So it could have been an opportunity for her to leverage on the experience of Dabiri. And she can travel to everywhere in the world. Parliamentary business is the issue of intellectual creation. You must create a place and put yourself there. And she's complaining that they don't allow her to travel abroad. When there was International Parliamentary Union meeting in Geneva, she was there. She even did a selfie. The deputy speaker of the House of Reps was there. The Senate president herself and other senators. She did a selfie. So where does she want to go abroad? She want to go for the Oscars or the Grammys?
How many committees does Senator Natasha belong to?
Like every other member, every other 109 of them, every other member, you can serve in only one committee. But she's the chairman of that committee. And the other committees she's serving. But we want to talk about the headship of the committees. So she's serving. So she had no reason to feel the way she's feeling. Nigerian content, she said they changed her from the local content, possibly because local content, you know, we have a lot of IOCs, international oil companies, and other, you know, organizations. Maybe she felt it was what typically they used to classify as a juicy committee.
Lucrative.
Lucrative. They use the word juicy so that the average man in the street would understand, you know, what you are going home with, if the committee is juicy. And it's no longer so. There are people who will be posted to a committee that is not said to be juicy. But by the activities of that committee, the committee becomes juicy.
What is the qualification for appointing a senator, for instance, into a specific committee, or a member of the House into a specific committee, or headship, chairmanship of a committee? Does it not require relevant qualifications or background?
Yeah. For example,
to that field.
For example, when I was made the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on the Media and Public Affairs and the spokesperson, so many things were put into it. My experience as the chairman of the Akwa Ibom State Ethical and Attitudinal Reorientation Commission, my experience as a member of the Fixed Nigeria Initiative of EFCC by the time of Ribadu, you know. And of course, my activities there. I was also the dean leading a parliamentary lobby team, an intellectual faculty that was providing resource, you know, for people to engage in motions and other things, and all of you, you know it. And we were always going out there to engage the public. So many things were put into consideration. Then you also know that there has to be the issue of ranking. There has to be issue of ranking. If Senator Ndume, for example, have stayed in the parliament for 12 years, you cannot just come in today because you are a former governor, and then you come and head the committee for appropriation, or you come and head you come and become the deputy senate president and all of that. So those things has to do with ranking and experience. It's very, very important. Because the Senate, I repeat it, is hallowed. The Senate, by the provision of Section 4 sub 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the National Assembly holds the legislative powers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So whatever comes out from the chambers, those two chambers, is final. That the money bills and all of that. So somebody who does not understand how budget is managed, somebody who does not understand the earnings or the issue of consolidated revenues and all of that, he cannot just be appointed, he say, because of my relationship with the president, I should become the chairman of appropriation and all of that. It doesn't work like that. The parliament is a very strategic organization. It's strategic to the extent that any mistake will bring down the roof of this country. That's what I'm saying. That by the intention of democracy, legislature was meant to define it. That's why there is legislature.
All right, now, given what has happened, I mean, these matters have now been taken outside of the Senate chamber to the public.
Which of the matters now?
this whole thing arose from this sitting arrangement and all
No,
of
that one has been
and
concluded.
And accusations have now been developed and thrown into the fray.
I can tell you the issue of the adjustment of seats and the unruly behavior of a senator has gone to the Ethics and Privileges Committee.
But that was the beginning of it all. That was
yes,
the genesis of all of this.
Yes. So they will come out. They were given 2
a lot
weeks.
of public space.
No, the public, see, when you are talking about public space, the issue of legislative business is not a social media affair. Legislative business is not a social media affair. It deals with mixed laws and facts.
But you agree that it has now gone beyond the legitimate legislative business that
into the realms of, conclude your statement, the realms of what? Into the realms of speculation and hearsay.
Into the
realms of speculation and hearsay.
No,
into which realm?
Not speculation.
If he leaves legitimacy, where is it going to?
It's going into the realm of scandals.
Scandals, in any case, is not something you just come at. Scandal is a hearsay, as it were. Scandal is hearsay. You can scandalize me, I can scandalize you. Then if you feel offended or you feel injured, you go to court. Is it not what it,
and there are cases in
that's
court
what happened.
already.
No, I'm laying a foundation for you to follow. You go to court.
Yes.
So the issue of the social media has nothing to do with the ethics and privileges, concluding, taking the report back to the Senate. And whatever the Senate will arrive on will close that matter. You can't go to court because of the powers, Legislative Powers and Privileges Act. Whatever conduct that takes place in the parliament or the parliamentarians are doing, you can't challenge it in court. Quote me.
Yes, that I know.
Yes, and since you know that, that particular leg has now delayed.
That is
we have to wait for that report. So the issue of saying it should be tried with live television, and all that, it's immaterial. Then the second leg of the accusation, you and I also know that as we speak, there is no petition to any of the law enforcement agencies. You and I know that there is no matter in court that the claimants in any of the paragraphs have averred to the issue of this harassment. You and I also know, too, a senator who had been harassed is expected to take advantage of the privilege and raise that. So those three platforms, the court, security agencies, and all of that, there is no petition anywhere.
Could she have brought up that matter on the floor of the Senate?
She could have petitioned the police. Like when Senator Bukola Saraki, I was very disappointed and sad, said, oh, Akpabio should step down. He cited his own case where his own case is different. There was a petition that he imported bulletproof cars and didn't pay custom duties, that he used his office as the president of the Senate. And because he knew that it was false accusations, he said, okay, let it go to the rules and business. Ethics and privileges. And you will not step down until when the ethics and privileges will bring the report to present in a plenary. If it affects you, the twin pillar of justice, fair hearing and not being a judge in your own case will prevail. That's where you step aside and allow this thing to go on. But as a matter of fact, this matter is different. There is no protest. There is no petition against anybody before the Senate, before the police, or before any court. So all these things we are talking about is a merriment. It is a merriment in a season of anomy. And we cannot act on that. We cannot pull the Senate out of the hallowed nature, out of the chambers, and bring it outside to the street of Wuse Market to be discussing an issue that does not exist. And take note for your information. Senator Dr. Bukola Saraki, who is now leading the comment, He was tried at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. You know that. He was put in a dock. Did he resign? He was coming from the box of that trial to come and preside in the Senate. He didn't. In 2018, the Nigerian police force issued press release associating him with the OFA bank robbery. Are you not aware? His name was mentioned freely. And 5 of the gentlemen were paraded and they made confessions. Whether he participated or not, they said they are his boys. Did he resign? The police asked him to make statement within 24 hours and come and submit. That was investigation. But in this case, it's different. So, 3, my disappointment with him is that as a former president of the Senate, I expect him to take advantage of that privileged position and now go to the president, the incumbent, or any of the presiding officers and say, what is going on? I'm hearing all these things. What is going on? Is there any way we can resolve this thing? Or it can cause, they have a forum of presiding officers of the National Assembly made up of the serving and the former. They have a platform like that. They could all sit down, the Kendamanis, the Pius Ayims, the Wabras, name it, the Bankoles, the Dokaras, and all of that. They could have sat in and discussed what is going on because we want to protect the institution. We even have a forum of former members of the House of Representatives where we also sit down and discuss things about the institution. Even when a speaker wants to image, even when we are no longer members, we still have contribution to talk to our junior brother, look, this is how it should go. So I expected him to have played that role and not to come outside here and issue a statement that we must protect the institution. He's not leading by example.
Do you foresee a situation, say, going forward, do you see a situation where, say, members of the Senate will say, oh, all of this is distracting us from our duties as senators, as lawmakers, and of giving service to our constituents, as the case may be. You see a situation where a time will come when they will say, Mr. Senate President, perhaps temporarily, you should step aside and let this thing not distract us.
That sounds like an unfulfilled prophecy. Yours is sounding,
I'm not prophesying.
I'm not saying you are prophesying, but
yes.
I'm saying it's sounding like an unfulfilled prophecy. It cannot come to pass because this is the most stable, the most focused Senate in our annals. The leadership of Senator Godswill Akpabio of the Senate has surpassed any records we have. You can do a content analysis or auditing to see. People used to think that the tripod of the legislature, the judiciary, and the judiciary and the executive must not be at peace. That you must show some level of activism to put the executive. No. But it is now, we have realized that constructive engagement between these 3 arms of government is the best for the people and is yielding results. If by the time they said withdrawal of fuel subsidy, maybe the leadership of the National Assembly joined the Labour Congress instead of talking to the Labour Congress, but joined them in the activism, just because they want Nigerian people to know that they are representing them. Today, what we are going through today will have not happened. So the leadership of the present Senate is very engaging, it's very constructive. And it is now that there is no political party partisanship. There are no cleavages in the Senate. It's difficult for you to know somebody to say, I am of the Labour Party, I'm opposition, I am of SDP. What they all claim, and indeed that is what they are, is this is the 10th Senate. You see them every now and then. If you had read the last magazine of the 10th Senate, where some of the PDP senators are eulogizing the same Senate president for being focused, for staying through, for consulting, you know, that is what it is. So he's practicing leadership and not dealership. In the past, we were experiencing dealership. while administering the National Assembly. That's why we always have banana peels.
I was going to come to the
because
issue
of
of banana
dealership.
peels.
Yes.
You are very much aware of the
Yes,
banana peels.
of course, I am a product of the parliament.
The proverbial banana peels in the
Akpabio's era
are those
has
banana
removed.
peels still
That's
there?
why I am telling you that the Akpabio's leadership, chairmanship of the National Assembly, has removed banana peel because he is not a dealer. Since he's a leader survives through legacies, through bonding, through building, team building. So what Godswill Akpabio is doing is team building the Senate. So you can never see a sprout of a banana, not to talk of a peel. And that's the end of it. So he's practicing constructive transformational leadership and not dealership. Because he has a history, he has a pedigree. As a former commissioner in Akwa Ibom State, he's the first person to introduce developing the local government among the 774 local governments in this country. He brought security village to curtail insecurity in every local government, where the DPO, DCO, the head of council, the head of admin, the head of works, all of them were living there. He said, when there is no light, you will be forced to put electricity for the people. He introduced it. When he became a governor of Akwa Ibom State, that some of you were going there to go and solicit for housemate. You now went and saw trainee pilots. You now saw young girls who were no longer selling granite on the road, going to high schools, free of charge. You now begin to see the Akwa Ibom child now redefining, you know, the characterization of what used to be the past. Today, Akwa Ibom State is a tourist center. Akwa Ibom State, he built the only stadium in this country as we speak that FIFA is accepting as the one for football. You can't play football anywhere. You have to go to Uyo. If you need a choir, you go to Uyo. Ibom Air is the most functional airline in this country. I stand to be corrected. So the man is a man of history. They should allow him replicate this in the Senate, and he's doing that. When he was a minister for Niger Delta Development Commission was a cesspool of corruption. But he went in there and said, hey, the buck stops here. That office was on rent. For over 25 years, they couldn't complete the headquarters. But he was the person who went there as a minister and completed the place. And now he has saved government from those expenditures. And he's coming to the Senate here to bring about that uncommon disposition, uncommon pedigree. So please, let's give him a chance. I know his only weakness. I can tell you if you want to hear.
I want to hear that. I
Yes.
was going to ask you why
Akpabio's problem is that he's a very strong family man. He loves his wife and he loves his children. And he doesn't want to see any other child anywhere going through the sad path of child deprivation. And his problem, which he will not be able to solve, wasn't by his choice, that he comes from a minority. He's from Akwa Ibom. If he were not a South Southerner, if Akpabio were to be from any of the states in the north or any of the states in the southwest, I can tell you that it would be endless. The presidency of the Senate with him on top would be endless because of innovations.
So I ask you this question.
Please,
maybe as our final take. Why is he so amenable, so susceptible to accusations of sexual harassment? Because this is the second in the series.
You know, I don't know what you call sexual harassment, but if what
I say allegations.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
But if what you think is the same thing I am feeling, somebody who is sexually harassed is a very distressed person. He's distressed. He's worried. So what that person does is that he will be looking for somebody to confide on. If you are sexually harassed, you will look for somebody to confide on. And in this case, like in Senator Natasha's case, the nearest person for her to confide on is her husband. But in that television talk show she did, she said she never disclosed to the husband That even one of those nights, the husband cuddled her in the night and said, my dear, tell me, what did the Senate president? She said, nothing. We all heard. Take note of that. Now, he said Senator Akpabio was holding her hand. They were moving fast. That is, moving willingly fast. She didn't bother that she was sexually harassed. She couldn't pull her hand back. She couldn't pull her hand back. She couldn't tell the man, oh, let's wait for my husband, because he said the husband was making call from behind. She was just following. That is a distressed person who is complaining of sexual harassment. Then lastly, these two families have known themselves, exchange visits, and becoming part and parcel of each other over the years. Are you saying for that period of time, you never visited the Akpabio's family? Because it's only somebody who is a stranger or who is just coming to your house for the first time, you will take round your house. But these are people who have been living together. So you obviously know that house. What was the benefit of taking you around the house again? When there were 1,001 people, including senators, the the president's wife, and all of that, on a day of his birthday. That's the day he chose to harass you. And Akpabio's wife is also with Akpabio, and Senator Akpabio, of course, is always having security men all over the place. And he chose to harass you in his house, and not in the office, and not in a hotel, and not in Geneva, that you all went.
All right.
So the story is not
Honorable.
elegant. The story is not elegant.
Okay.
She should rather speak to the truth.
Let's leave it at that. Our time
Thank you
is
very
up. We
much.
must
Thank
go.
you. Thank
Honorable SMA Yibo is the media advisor to the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Obot Akpabio. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mama. I really appreciate.
All right. Thank you so much for spending your time with us on People Politics and Power today. We'll see you again when we bring you a fresh edition of the program. Bye for now.